Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I hope you're all fit and well. How was your weekend? I'll tell you what, let me get to that in just a second because we have some breaking news just coming into the chat as we speak. Steve Williamson is back from his honeymoon. Good morning, Steve. Hope the wedding went well. Hope the honeymoon went equally well. Hope Mrs. Williamson is still speaking to you, but welcome back. You've been sorely missed. Right, where was I? Ah, yes. How was your weekend? Yeah, mine was a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. On the upside, I guess, my kids took very good care of me over Father's Day. But on the flip side, this was actually my first Father's Day since my own had passed away. Now, that's a bit of a worry. I've got to reconnect LinkedIn. Bear with me a second. No, it seems to be okay. That's weird. Okay, my apologies. I just had a thing come up on the screen there. Yeah, first Father's Day without my own dad. Felt very odd not speaking to him or seeing him or anything. But all that aside, I've got some exciting news for you. Very exciting news, in fact. We've been working away in the background on not one, but two significant new films, both of them featuring world-leading equipment brands. Well, those films are now pretty much ready for public consumption. And so we are planning a pair of movie premieres in the coming days and weeks. Both premieres will take place in the evening, and I'm favouring a Wednesday evening because that seems to be our broadcasting sweet spot. So I would strongly suggest that you stock up on popcorn. You won't want to miss either of these new films. I can't tell you who they involve, Caterpillar and Cobelco, but they are very, very good films indeed. So my plan is to do one on Wednesday next week and then another one the Wednesday after that, assuming we can get all of that tucked away with the respective with the respective manufacturers. In addition to that, and partly to coincide with at least one of those films, we are actually planning to deliver some of our written work in a slightly different manner too. For one of those new films, I've written an accompanying article that is almost 3,000 words in length. Don't normally go that long, but it was worth it. But we're only going to publish part of that article on demolitionnews.com. The remainder of that article, in fact, the lion's share, will be available only to our subscribers. Now, subscriptions are currently free, 100% free, although we will begin charging in the very near future. If you subscribe now, however, you get a free lifetime membership. Just giving it away. Despite the quality of what's inside, we're giving it away. So if you would like to subscribe, I do have a button for that. Let's have a look if I can find it. If you look in the chat now, it's called Demolition Insider, although that's not how it's displayed. If you'd like to click that at some point during today, go over, subscribe, and you will get free access to this kind of premium content that we're doing. And there's going to be plenty more to come as well. So all that being said, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Here with me, I'm just typing a response to Mark Whiting. Good morning, Mark. I've just sent you a response in the chat. Right, where were we? Ah, yes, it is. I've checked. It is Monday, the 19th of June. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, the Plant and Hire Aid Alliance, I keep getting that wrong, wins a well-deserved award at Plantworx 2023. We take a closer look at the Komatsu backhoe loader that was on display at Samoter 2023. We put the latest cat grader under the microscope, and we're taking a dual view of the latest site dumper from those fine folks at Wacker Neuson. And we're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, we're going to take a quick peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On on this day in 1829, just 1829, Robert Peel introduced the Metropolitan Police Act, and London's first modern police force took to the streets. And hasn't that turned out well? In 1910, Germany launched its first airship service. Didn't that turn out well too? In 1970, the Conservatives, led by Edward Heath, won the British parliamentary election. That didn't go well either. And in 1991, Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar was jailed. I think that one turned out rather better. And in 1999, author and my personal hero, Stephen King, was hit by a car and almost killed. But in typical Stephen King style, master of the macabre that he is, he would eventually buy the vehicle that almost took his life to keep as a souvenir. Only Stephen King. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of the question of the day using my new computer avatar. Yes. How do you like your eggs? Please don't anybody say fertilised. I've already thought of that. Personally, bit of a fried egg man. Fried egg sandwich remains one of my favourites. I can honestly say I have been fortunate enough to enjoy many memorable meals around the world. But one of the most memorable was eating a fried egg sandwich in a field at Glastonbury at about 3:30 in the morning while the heavens opened above. Fantastic. Also quite like a scrambled egg from time to time. Soft boiled with toasted soldiers. Also a fine invention. But how do you prefer yours? I know we've already had a couple of answers to that. We'll come back to that in the chat. So yes, should we start the show properly now? Yeah, let's do that. I'm just being told I may have come up with that question of the day before. Listen, 526 shows in. I don't remember. Ken, if we have done it before, my apologies, but thank you for your answer. We will come back to it. I've got a better one for you tomorrow, courtesy of our friend Gary Muirhead. So yes, there we are. Now, during Plantworx 2023, was that really a week ago? There was an awards ceremony hosted by Sean Wallace from TV's The Chase. The Dark Destroyer? Anybody? Didn't mean a huge amount to me, but apparently that's him. There were lots of awards for things like innovation, security, and the like. And we will be catching up with some of those in the weeks and days ahead. But there was one award that shone brighter and yet was more poignant than all the others, in my personal opinion. The Plant and Higher Aid Alliance has been working tirelessly to deliver aid to war-torn Ukraine pretty much since the conflict began. In October this year, the Alliance will be taking its third convoy of aid to the country as well. Our mate Peter Haddock thankfully managed to capture the moment that the Alliance's driving force, Jeremy Fish, accepted the award. And I apologise slightly for the quality of the audio on this. It was recorded on an iPhone, and I've had to compress it to take out some of the background noise. But you'll get the gist.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, actually I feel a bit embarrassed actually accepting the award for the work that we've done when so many people are suffering out in Ukraine. 10 million people have been displaced in their homes. And actually what worries me more as this war sort of progresses is that the public is becoming increasingly numb to what's going on. The press is getting bored of what's going on, and it takes like a dam and millions more people to be displaced and the ecological disasters and precautions that we've seen this week to actually just get a little bit more interest back. And that worries me hugely. And what I think the Plants and Higher Aid Alliance has done is that I think we're a group of 55 companies that have come together. We're not an organisation, we're just like-minded companies, so we have a plants and hire industry. And I like to think that we are a force for good. And what we're showing the rest of the world is actually this is a great industry to be in. This is a great industry to work in and to be a part of. And actually together we can make a difference. And actually our tally now is £2 million worth of aid in goods and other things delivered to Ukrainian people. And we're not stopping then. We're still looking for companies to join us to participate in the campaign. We've got a convoy going out, so it'll be our third one on the 15th and 16th of October. Last time we had 15 vehicles go to Košice in Slovakia, where we're working with Rotary International, who then got a donation as all over Ukraine. If anyone would like to join us, we've got a website. It's www.8-lines.com. We'd love to have you part of us. As I say, we're doing this because we feel strongly about what's happening in Ukraine. We want to make a statement. So as I said, I feel a bit embarrassed about accepting the award, but thank you. And actually thank you for the opportunity to just share a message with everybody here. And I really do hope that more of you will join us and help make a difference. Thank you very much.
Yeah, personal opinion, there was no more deserving award winner. A huge thank you to Peter Haddock for allowing us to share that video of the award. But even more importantly, huge congratulations to Jeremy Fish and the Plant and Hire Aid Alliance for showing that this industry does have a very human heart somewhere lurking deep within its chest. Keep up the good work, Jeremy and team. And hats off to you for that fine effort. Now, we need a bit of this, I think. Between trips to the Czech Republic, Plantworx, back to Italy, again, we're still working to bring you some footage from our trip to Verona for the Samoter exhibition. In fact, it's just occurred to me, I think we may even have 1 or 2 films outstanding from Con Expo way back in March. There's a backlog, what can I tell you? But we're about to show you one of the more interesting machines from the Komatsu stand, rather, at Samoter. Now, we all know that they make a damn fine excavator and a very good wheel loader. So it should probably come as no great surprise to learn that they also make a very good backhoe loader as well. Now, you have to bear with me because I'm going to have to play this in a slightly different way. Bear with me 2 seconds while I get this uploaded for your viewing pleasure.
Our top of the range here is the WB97S, 4-wheel steering, fully PPC automatic gearbox, and we're quite happy to be here with the backhoe loader. Just to tell you some important feature, our loader has a perfect parallelism system, meaning that you can raise and lower if you are lifting some load without losing the parallelism. And it's very good when using forks, for instance, or when loading the material, you will be sure not having spillage or other, let's say, problems. As well, the excavator is a traditional Komatsu excavator. You have a very good feeling, and digging with the real excavator gives you the same experience of a standard excavator and makes the machine very smooth and fast. The backhoe loader is a real Italian product because we have a long experience. You know, Komatsu in Italy was before called Fai, and Fai somehow invented the backhoe loader in Italy. We have been continuing this tradition. We have been moving to the Komatsu flagship, but we keep the Italian, let's say, design experience. And the machine we have today comes from more than 50 years of experience in the backhoe loader. The backhoe loader is perfect for the backhoe loader owner. There are some kind of backhoe loader, let's say, operator that we call ternista. In Italian means the guy who drives the backhoe loader, which will choose again the backhoe loader. But as you say, that this is becoming quite a minority in the market, and most of the market is moving to mini excavator, skid steer loader, because in Italy we like the skid steer loader or wheel loader. So it's true. As well in Italy, backhoe loader is still the versatile machine, but it's no longer the most popular one. What distinguishes our machine from the competitor, in my point of view, is the excavator. Our machine is tremendously good with the excavator. So if you're a customer doing trenches or using a lot the excavator, our machine is really smooth and comfortable. You have a very smooth simultaneous movement. You have a very good feeling. If you're an excavator driving, you will find really the same feeling. Then of course we said about the loader is a very easy to use machine. So if you use forks, if you use attachment, you can find very safe and comfortable usage of our machine.
Yeah, that one comes courtesy of my son's outfit, Diggers and Dozers. Thank you very much indeed for that. I'd like to know, has anyone here actually driven a Komatsu backhoe loader? Love to get your thoughts if you have. Please drop us a line in the chat. The mighty Caterpillar has added a brand new motor grader to its already market-leading range. Want to see it? Thought you probably would. Jim, if you're in the chat at the moment, I think you are. I think you'll enjoy the tune that goes with this. Do we have any grader operators among us? I always thought they looked like an absolute nightmare to operate. But what are your experiences or memories of being behind the levers of a grader? Let me know in the chat. We need this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Where do you stand on site dumpers? Are they the tireless construction workhorse or an unstable accident waiting to happen? Are they a key link in the on-site productivity chain, or are they merely the site taxi sat in the corner, ticking over all day, burning fuel? Well, regardless of your personal thoughts, the latest dumpers from Wacker Neuson look very good indeed. So let's take a look. In fact, as they are dual view, maybe let's take two looks instead. So, what do we all make of the latest Wacker dumpers? Good, bad, ugly, somewhere between between all of those? Let me know in the chat. While you're doing that, I need to have a bit of a gripe. So, on Saturday, let me try that again. So, on Saturday, having sweated my way around Plantworx in a mix of jeans and chinos, I decided it was high time that I got myself some new shorts. Really wear shorts, have a face for radio, and I also have legs for a dark room where there's no light whatsoever. However, since you only get to see me from the waist up, I figured I could wear shorts while broadcasting without imposing my pasty limbs upon an unsuspecting public. And I'll come back to that in just a second, but Gaz Evans, who is in the chat, when I met him at Plantworx, he said, "You're taller than I thought, but then I've only ever seen you sat down." Most people have, to be perfectly honest. So, going back to my shorts, I took myself off to Kingston upon Thames, just a few miles up the road from me, and our biggest local shopping centre. Having long since succumbed to the lure of Amazon and online shopping, I'm not a big fan of physical shopping, but there's a good coffee to be had in Kingston, so I figured I would top up the caffeine levels by buying my new shorts. So I picked out a couple of pairs that were long enough to reduce the glare from my thighs, but short enough to actually look like I might get some sun to my legs. I paid, went home with the sun still shining. I thought I'd break in my new purchases, but there was a problem. You see, on the hanger, it quite clearly stated that my shorts were a 36-inch waist. Yet I couldn't get them past my knees. It was only on closer inspection that I discovered that the shorts were, in fact, a 28-inch waist, and they were also on the wrong hanger. Now, I haven't been a 28-inch waist since I left school, just after the last ice age, and so I was forced to drive back to Kingston, pay for parking once again, so I could return the shorts and exchange them for something that didn't fit an action man. I mean, on the upside, second cup of coffee was every bit as good as the first one, but is it really that hard to match hangers with the items on them? Would have saved me a journey. Anyway, that's my gripe of the day. And just so you know, I'm not wearing shorts today. I've actually got jeans on. It looked colder than it really is. I'm going to switch into shorts a bit later on, but that was my gripe of the day. Love to hear yours. And I've got one from Steve. It's from Ed Butler, via Steve. We'll come to that in just a second. But what is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will return very, very soon. It's pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. The fun part starts in just a second when I can let you take over. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Have a fantastic day. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you for the Craic after a final word from our key show sponsor. Yeah, slight change in music today. Not sure if it means anymore, but you know, there we are. Let's have a look. Let's go back to the very beginning of the chat. Who was first off the mark? Kerry Jones was first off the mark. The Welsh are early risers, it would appear. Good morning to you, Kerry. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Gary Muirhead, thank you for your question of the day for tomorrow. It involves food. So many of my questions of the day do seem to involve food, but it's a belter. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Had a fine old weekend. Thank you very much indeed. Steve Williamson, welcome back. Welcome back. Not been quite the same without you and your happy, smiling face. Although Ed's mannequin standing of you at Plantworx was one of my personal highlights of the whole Plantworx show. If nobody has seen that, check. Trust me, it's worth it. There's another of our Welsh contingent, Mr. Ken Hatcher. Morning, Ken. I'm going to get your Sunward hat in the post for you today. Didn't have a chance over the weekend. And there is Mrs. Ms. Plantworx herself, Luke Carney. Morning, Luke. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope you've shaken the dust from your boots, and I hope you've recovered in your sleep, and you're back basically getting ready for the next one, I guess. Dan Cullen's in the house. Morning, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. How the hell are we? I'll tell you how the hell I am. I'm firing on all cylinders. feeling no pain at all this morning. Jeff Pinion, Mr. Brock is here as well. Morning, Jeff. Thank you very much indeed for being here. I hope that Brock enjoyed Plantworx, that it went well for you. Craig Williams, should I say, of CSW Groundworks is in the house. Good morning, Craig. Thank you very much indeed for being here. There is a welcome back from Mr. Muirhead to Mr. Williamson. There is Jim Turner. I saw him go through the chat, so thank you very much indeed for being here. So I was not alone. Kerry Jones says, my first Father's Day without mine too. Very empty day. Yeah, that was kind of my feeling as well. And I don't mean to sort of dismiss or downplay this, but sometimes things feel odd. I mean, I've not touched alcohol in probably, I would guess, probably 15 years now. I didn't sort of set a date or anything like that, but it must be about 15 years now. And yet, fire up a barbecue and I feel oddly imbalanced without a beer in my hand. I haven't done it in years, but it feels weird. And then on Sunday, Father's Day, obviously there were lots of messages going around on social media about Father's Day, and it was just, the inclination was just to reach to the phone to speak to mine, and obviously no longer with us. So yes, it did feel rather empty, although we did have a good time as my children treated me very well, so thank you very much indeed to them. I don't know why I'm thanking them, they don't watch this, but there you are. So, a wedding and honeymoon was awesome. Only grief I got was at the Palms, recording and taking pics of some artillery machines, maintaining the Palms. Steve, listen, I'm sure that the new Mrs. Williamson is a fine lady, but trust me, don't make mistakes like that. Not this early in your marriage. I screwed up a Mother's Day once when, now let me think, I reckon it must be 27 years ago. I won't bore you with the details, but trust me, when Mother's Day rolls around 27 years later, right in the neck every single time. Don't repeat that mistake. Now, my question of the day, which may or may not be a repeat of something we've done before: how do you like your eggs? How do you like your eggs? We do have some answers. There is Mark Whiting. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Gaz Evans is here as well somewhere. There we are. Morning all. On our way to another show. Good God, man. Do you have no rest? You're driving yourself far too hard, but good morning, Gaz, and thank you very much indeed for being here, and thanks for the chat at Plantworx. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, let's have a look. Eggs. We were talking eggs, weren't we? I think the first answer was there, and I have to admit, as in so many things, I do agree wholeheartedly with Steve Williamson. Question of the day: scrambled eggs done correctly, not in the microwave. 100%. What is that? What is that? It turns eggs into something that looks like yellow brain. I don't want that. I'd like scrambled eggs. Just take the time. Lots of butter, please. Thank you. I think we had that question the day before, but Ken Hatter is still going sunny side up. Sunny side up. Over easy is my personal preference on fried eggs. Just like to de-snot the egg, as it were. Kerry Jones is another sunny side up. Is this a Welsh thing? Maybe it is. Question of the day: Jim Turner likes his eggs scotched. Scotch egg. Oh, now we're talking. There is a pub not a million miles. Funny enough, I mentioned Kingston earlier. There's a pub over in Kingston that does these. I'm not going to call them luxury Scotch eggs, because at the end of the day, it's just a hard-boiled egg with some stuff around it. But they do a black pudding Scotch egg. They also do a haggis one. Oh, haggis Scotch egg. Trust me, you haven't lived if you've not had one of those. Question of the day: soft-boiled with toasted soldiers. Yes, please. Quite fancy that now, actually. Jeff Pinion, soft poached. I didn't have you down as a soft poached man, big strapping lad like yourself. I had you down as a multiple fried eggs with bacon, lots of it. You're a fine, upstanding gentleman either way. Now, I mentioned gripes. We have a bit of a gripe, second-hand gripe. I was speaking to Ed, as Steve so often does, Apparently at Plantworx he wasn't allowed to stack bricks and not allowed to hand out sweets. Really, UK safety strikes again. I think Lou is in the chat. Lou doesn't control the health and safety at Plantworx, and I know that they set the standards very high. I can kind of understand the whole idea of not handing out sweets and everything else, because that is potentially human-machine human-machine interaction, which I guess is a bit much. But not allowed to stack bricks. That one does surprise me. If anybody's got any comment on that, I'd like to hear from you. William Forrest, my new mate, William Forrest. Funnily enough, I actually met William for the first time at Plantworx, and what were we watching at the time? We were watching Ed Butler doing his thing on the auger tool stand. And a fine time was had by all. Morning, William. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And he goes on to say, I bet not many in here have driven a Komatsu telehandler either. No, I think you're probably right. And no, not seen many of them in Scotland. I think that was the Komatsu backhoe loader. Ken Hatcher, who has been around since Christ was a choir boy, says he drove one about 20 years ago and it used to overheat. And it's still bothering him today. There you are. Dan Cullen likes his eggs soft, centre and fried. Well, aren't you a vegan, Dan? Do you do eggs? Or are you a vegetarian? I can't remember. I listen, I'm so easily confused. Stephen Guthrie says, morning, lads and gals. Yes, morning, lads and gals. Jeff Pinion says, good morning, Dan, not San. Steve Williamson, I did exactly the same. Got shorts for holiday. They were small at the shed on the hanger. Put them on to go to the sand dunes, bent down, split right up the arse. Brilliant. Now, the controversy reigns. Ed Butler was handing out sweets in a bucket with his tilty, and I have images to prove it, says Luke Harney. Ed Butler, where are you? Fess up, man. Were you handing out sweets? It appears that you were. That's the next one. Darren Day, Steve Williamson, Encon lads were stacking curbs. Darren Day. Now, I don't believe we've seen Darren here in chat before. So, on that basis, Darren, you get the welcome confetti that is traditional when we get a newcomer in the chat. Let us know where you're watching. Obviously, you're watching it from Facebook, but whereabouts in the world are you? Love to hear from you. Dan Cullen liked his soft fried eggs before he became vegan. So, see, I do pay attention. Did it have XMCL tyres? Not sure what that's about. Not sure why he couldn't stack bricks. No, me either. It's just mind-blowing that Batman, the world's biggest would. Okay, let me try this again because I've worked out what he's saying. It's just mind-blowing that at Balmer, the world's biggest, with hundreds of thousands of visitors, Con Expo, one of the biggest, no safety issues at all. Demo drivers are experienced ops and they know their limits. But UK, no. Not sure that is the case. Anyway, Ed started stacking, but was told not to. Then handed out sweets and was told no again. Listen, this is one that could run and run, but I'm just going to go over to Darren Day. Darren Day is in Newmarket, middle of demonstrating, and saw you gone. You were gone before I could come and say hello. My apologies. I am a man possessed when I make exhibitions. We'll get to meet one of these days. Batman, yeah, it wasn't Balmer. It wasn't Batman. It was Balmer, but we get the idea. Let's have a look what we got here. Sorry, busy muck away on a Takuchi 2150, he says. Did we cover all that? This is not to criticise Plantworx because that is not the business I am in. This applies to all UK exhibitions. But I went to Con Expo, plenty of kids about. Went to Balmer, plenty of kids about. Went to went to Samoter rather, plenty of kids about. And then you come to the UK, no kids. And I know I actually had a call from a friend of mine, Andy Stevens, who's been on the show in the past, who wanted to take one of his kids, his boy, his lad, who I think is 9, to Plantworx. And I told him that wasn't, I told him what the rules and regulations were. And I do find it disappointing that the UK, and as I say, I'm not criticising Plantworx. Plantworx is merely following the rules as they are laid down. That's all they're doing. It's not Plantworx being arsey. Them's is the rules. But why is the UK so uptight about things like that? Particularly at a time when we are trying to attract young people to the industry. Darren says, Friday was full of children. Yeah, because Plantworx make a special dispensation on the Friday and do a very, very good job of it. I know Lou Carney does a lot of outreach with local schools and what have you, and I think that's one of the highlights of Plantworx. But how is it that all the other exhibitions, or all the other countries, should I say, I really want to stress the fact that this is not a Plantworx criticism, this is a UK criticism. Why is it that the Italians, the Germans, the French and the Americans can welcome young people with open arms, and yet we are not allowed to? Thursday was full of kids at the show, and there were a few that came earlier in the week. I didn't realise that was allowed. In that case, my apologies. Vito Schiascia. I probably murdered your second name, but good morning. Thank you very much indeed for being here. You are also a newcomer, so you get the welcome confetti. Vito, where are you watching from? That looks like an Italian name to me, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are in Italy, but thank you very much indeed for being here. Let's hop back to the chat. I would par Plantworx as Hillhead, as was spectacular setup. Okay, so having inadvertently criticised Plantworx, I was criticising the UK, not Plantworx, I'll stress that. Was it me, or was this Plantworx the best organised one yet? Felt a lot like it to me. And should I tell you how I judge that? I judge the organisation of exhibitions by the amount that I notice it. I didn't notice the organisation at Plantworx at all. Couple of things. Pre-registration worked perfectly. Not only did pre-registration work perfectly, but I went to bed on the night before I went up and thought I must dig through my emails to find my ticket. Didn't need to, because Plantworx actually sent me one on the morning I was planning to travel to the show. So there it was, fresh and new on the show. I went through registration in about 4 seconds. It probably would have been even quicker if I'd have got my phone out the pocket quicker. The bit that I'm interested in, the comms area or the press office, worked perfectly. I had 0, and I do mean 0 comments, complaints about manufacturers getting machines in and getting machines out. Everybody seemed to have a smile on their face. Best organised Plantworx to date. It gets my vote. If anybody else has had any experience of that, let me know. Right, okay. It wasn't open children when dads had driven miles. How could we say no? Yeah, I'm just glad you rolled with it, Luke. Or I'm saying you. I don't suppose for one moment they came directly to you, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have to say, I personally think that children should be allowed. I would even forego such close access to demonstrations if it meant we could get more children in. And again, I mean, I think the way that Awesome Earth Movers organised that central ring, again, perfectly well organised. They did a fantastic job. I'd say Plantworx was better than Hillhead, as Hillhead has gone downhill as far as demonstrating plant is concerned. I have to say, I reckon they're on a par. That's my personal viewpoint. I think one of the issues with with Hillhead, at least the last outing of Hillhead, was that Caterpillar and Finning chose not to really demonstrate. They had a couple of bits of kit, but they'd gone very high tech with GPS and all that kind of thing. And I think whereas we would normally have had the Caterpillar demonstration, excuse me one second, the Cat demonstration followed by the Komatsu, followed by the Liebherr, followed by the Itachi, followed by the Doosan Devilon. You take one of those out and it does feel like there's less. So I can see where you're coming from. I think every day should be a school day at the show. Here, Lou Carney. I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously we need it to be controlled, and you would like to think anybody bringing children to an exhibition where there is mobile plant, some of it very, very large, you would like to think they would have the good sense to keep them under control. I personally agree with that wholeheartedly. If there is nothing more likely to encourage and inspire a young person to join this industry than seeing the equipment in operation. You see a big, huge bloody excavator or a big dump truck or a big dozer, that's going to get the old juices flowing, I reckon. So yes, do totally agree. Hillhead main demonstration area was way too small for the size and amount of plant. It was at the face. Totally agree. I personally thought it was the quietest, very well organised. Would like to have seen Komatsu, Kobelco, Wacker Neuson, Orphan Cat and SMT Volvo. Listen, there were some stayaways. You've got most of them there. Obviously, Case weren't there either. Volvo weren't there either. And I don't listen. I am not here to promote or defend Plantworx, but I don't believe that the lack, those stayaways, I do not believe that was down to Plantworx or down to any shortcoming of that show. I think the problem we've had, and I have mentioned this before, is that we had a couple of years where the likes of JCB, who you also haven't mentioned, JCB, Volvo, Komatsu, Kobelco, all of the companies you mentioned there became very, very, very adept at hosting their own events, either physical events like the Volvo Days in Sweden, or virtual events like JCB and Bobcat and various other people. Caterpillar did as well. And my guess is, knowing how tight money is at the moment, my guess is they probably looked at their bottom line and thought, well, we didn't do Hillhead because it was postponed. It didn't affect our bottom line. We didn't do Plantworx when it should have happened. Let me think. This was the first for 4 years, so the last one we should have had one 2020, maybe thereabout. Doesn't matter. But they've missed a Plantworx and probably looked at their bottom line and thought, did we really suffer as a result? Do we really want to go and exhibit where our message is diluted amongst all of our competitors? And I think the answer for some of them was no. Some of the companies that we're talking about there, Volvo being one, JCB being another, tend to blow hot and cold on exhibitions anyway. So I don't believe this is any to the detriment of Plantworx. I'm sure the Plantworx sales team did a fantastic job, and maybe having seen what Plantworx can look like in the sunshine, maybe they'll be back next time around, particularly there's going to be in a new location. But I do think we're on the cusp. Do I think exhibitions will survive? I do. Do I think there will be room for hybrid events, part online, part offline? I do. Do I think that virtual events have gone away? I do not. So, we do live in a new era, I think. So, dads turning up with their children. I got the call on my mobile and I said yes. The power that Lou Carney wields. Steve Williamson, our children need to be at the show. They are the future. Totally agree. Totally agree. A massive thank you to Lou Carney for everything she has done for us, says Dan Cullen. The Operator Challenge Zone was superb. We have Dale Hawkins to thank for that one. Yeah, I have to admit, my apologies. I should have said this earlier. Obviously, the Challenge Zone was under the Awesome Earth Movers banner, and Awesome Earth Movers personally, when I think of awesome earth movers, I tend to think of Chris McGuinness and all the work that he does on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and what have you. But that one, the operator zone or the challenge zone, was very much Dale Hawkins' baby. And Dale, if you're watching, cracking job, my friend. And sorry for interrupting your time-lapse photography with my incursion. Nobody told me. I apologise. But yeah, cracking job. Yes, definitely. Thanks, Luke, says Jim Turner. Pleasure, Dan. Love sharing my office with you, Peter. Dan Cullen says, love the Demolition 225 and the Lugon 922. Great kit and great staff at both stands. Very helpful. How were the staff on the stands this time around? Over the years, and I think I mentioned this last week. Over the years, I have had a mixed experience. Sorry, I've got a bit of itchy back. I've had a mixed experience. Not, in actual fact, I can't think of actually having a bad one at Plantworx, but at other shows, I've had very mixed reception to arriving with video cameras and stills cameras. I'm sure I've mentioned my son has actually been thrown off one stand because they thought he was a spy from a competitor, as if you would arrive with a camera on a tripod if you were trying to take espionage style photographs. But also my son again, and maybe this is just him, maybe he's just got one of those faces that people can't wait to see the back of, but he walked onto one stand with somebody that he knew very well and was told, get off the stand, customers only. What was your experience? Did you know, bearing in mind a lot of you guys are operators, were you greeted well? Were you treated as welcome, or were you treated as tire kickers? I sometimes get the feeling. I was talking to a lady at JCB and she's adamant that hydrogen will take over the battery operation of the plant. Not too far from the truth, I would suggest. Too much negativity on Plantworx. You can't force suppliers to go. Personally, I believe smaller local shows will replace the big events for the dealers and manufacturers. Welcome back, Callum McIntosh. Haven't seen you in the chat for a while. Personally, I hope that's not the case. No, you can't force suppliers to go. You absolutely can't. You can't. But I wonder, and this is not Plantworx, this is exhibitions in general, I wonder if they have shifted as much as the market they serve shifted. As I said, we are now post-COVID. I realise it's still kicking around, but we are post-COVID, we're post-lockdown. But we've had, I'm going off at a tangent. My parents, obviously no longer with us, but my parents were very keen on popping to the local shops for anything from a pint of milk to a pair of slippers. They loved popping to the local shops. My dad drove, my mum did the shopping, they'd have a cup of coffee while they were out, and then they would return home. COVID hit, they became very, very good, very, very switched on to online shopping. And when COVID stopped, they stuck with it. They stayed with the online shopping, and they didn't do so much of the physical shopping. I think we're in the same paradigm now with exhibitions. I think the likes of, as I say, Volvo, Bobcat, JCB, Caterpillar, and the various other manufacturers that really embrace technology to get their marketing messages out there during the height of COVID. I think some of them are still there. Will they come back? And if they don't come back, how does that change the makeup of these shows? And one of my biggest concerns, and this applies to Plantworx, applies to Hillhead, it applies to Bauma, it applies to ConExpo, Intermat, Samoter, all of these shows. In the nicest possible way, it is the Caterpillars and the Volvos and the Komatsus and the Liebherrs that get most people through the door. Most people, there are exceptions, but most people go to see the big name, big equipment manufacturers. And if you're a manufacturer of a widget or an attachment you are basically relying upon the crumbs to fall from the table of those major manufacturers. If those major manufacturers together decide that they are not going to do exhibitions anymore, what happens to those smaller suppliers? And what happens to the exhibitions? One of the things, I tend to take a bit of an overview on these shows. The last two Con Expos have been very much technology heavy. I would say this Plantworx, I think it was the largest gathering of quick couplers and tilt rotators I have ever seen. It seemed like every man and his dog had one. And I realise they make for good demonstration. You know, twisty and tilty. I recognise all of that. But if we end up with shows like a Plantworx or like an Intermat or like a Samoter that are now predominantly homes for tilt rotator manufacturers and quick coupler suppliers, how does that change the makeup of the show? How does that change the makeup of the audience? You would get as many bums on seats. If we get as many bums on seats, are they actually the people that are buying the equipment, or are they the people that are operating it? So many questions. I don't know the answers to any of these. I'm just chewing the fat here. I'm going to come back to the chat in a second, just now. In just a second. Watching a podcast yesterday morning while the house was in darkness and the children were still in bed. Children, they're in their bloody 30s. But while my kids were still in bed, I was watching a YouTube video, and they were talking about what is known as parasocial relationships. Parasocial relationships are generally presented as a bad thing, and they are where people in general believe they have some kind of relationship with a celebrity, be that a movie star, a singer, or whatever it might be. Now that's the way it's portrayed as a bad thing, but there is also the other side, which is the bit that interested me, was this idea of having a relationship with somebody that you may not know, but you see them a lot. You see them like me, not a celeb, not claiming to be. And one of the things that this guy was saying was, it is claimed that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. Last week, I spoke to my sister for about 20 minutes. I spoke for about 10 minutes to my best mate. Spent a fair bit of time with my wife, even though I was at Plantworx. Spent quite a bit of time with Fred at Plantworx. I reckon in an average week, I probably spend an hour and a half with my eldest son. I probably see my eldest daughter about once a week for about an hour. And yet I spend roughly 5 hours every week with all of you. So I am becoming a part. I am becoming the average of all of you. But you are also becoming the average, probably, of me. Think about the hours that you work. I don't know, what is it, 8, 9, 10 hours a day? By the time you factor in travel and all that kind of thing. But the chances are you are tuned into this show for about as long, if not longer, than you will spend with your loved ones, family, friends. Just going back to the exhibition thing, that's a new paradigm that we're talking about here. That's not happened before. How do we adjust to that? I know there's a lot of talk, and I'm planning to write something about this. I know there's a lot of talk about influencer marketing, and I think the whole idea of influencer marketing is supposed to be, I have some Bobcat sunglasses, they're awesome, you should buy some. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to rush out and buy a pair of Bobcat sunglasses because I said they're great. However, because we are spending so much time together, 5 hours a week, sometimes even more than that, that influence is drip feeding into your ears. Manufacturers, take note. If you're not going to exhibitions, maybe, just maybe, you should be here. Just a thought. I like this one. My son, good morning, Isaac, if you're watching. My son said the challenge zone was like a creche for operators. Some operators need that. Thank Christ for that, says Jim Turner. Hyundai was my worst interaction at the stands. Unreal rudeness. Wow. I'm not here to balance things out. I popped very, very briefly onto the Hyundai stand. Couldn't have been nicer. Absolutely fine with me. Maybe you caught the wrong person at the wrong time on the wrong day. I don't know. Give me a second. I agree. Hope not too, but the trends are showing. The trends are most definitely showing. Craig Williams, I keep saying that. After all the time spent on COVID, it was not sure. Jim Turner. Jim says Orbitalk was spot on. He was trying his best to flog me a crushing bucket. Had a good crack with a fellow about concrete rock splitters. I think it might have been on the rock stand. This little Italian fella selling attachments for sound too. Yeah. Well, listen. Did I get to speak to all the exhibitors? Of course I didn't. There's large swathes that kind of passed me by. Compaction, access platforms. Don't know, don't care, not bothered. I like stuff that moves earth. My experience at Plantworx was 100% positive. 100%. With, I can't. Even though last week I griped a bit about getting in and out of the car park, trying to work around lots of people with high vis tracking. It didn't slow me down. They were there, and it gave me an opportunity to gripe. It didn't slow me down at all. Craig Williams says, after all the COVID stresses and time, it was a real pleasure to meet with the media, all exhibitors and manufacturers made this huge effort for our viewing pleasure. Did not meet one bad egg because our paths didn't cross. Craig. Yeah, I almost wrote something about this last week. Didn't have the time. That's the absolute truth. Do we go to Plantworx for equipment? I realise that's the main reason or the main attraction. I realise I look at exhibitions in a very different way to most of you guys because I'm there basically to cover it from a journalistic point of view. But if I were to sit down with a notepad and pen now, could I draw up a list of 10 machines that I saw that I found really impressive? Nope. I mean, I can remember there was a very good Mini on the Sunward stand. I took a particular shine to one of the machines on the XCP stand. Can I remember the name of them? No, I can't. However, what I can remember is the people that I mixed with. And I'm still working my way through the pile of business cards that I picked up while I was there. It's the people. And again, I listen, it's not my job to recreate Plantworx or Hillhead or any of the exhibitions. But if we are going to have stayaways in the future, if we are going to have virtual and hybrid events, do we do things in a different way? Do we make it easier to spend time with the people? Have the machines there by all means, but do we do it in a different way? I'd love to get your thoughts. But these big boys do make a show. They do. Yeah, they do. I don't think anybody could possibly argue that Plantworx was good. It was very good. But personally, the best one yet. I'm speaking purely personally. From an organisation standpoint, from a weather standpoint, from the standpoint of being able to film and photograph as freely as we did. Best one yet. No question about it. Would it have been better if JCB and Thwaite and Volvo and Komatsu and Liebherr had been there? Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would. Why would you not want to see the biggest manufacturers in the world? And I also wonder, this literally just occurred to me while I was saying this. We've had some of the European manufacturers, so Volvo, Liebherr, JCB, Thwaite, chose to stay away. And yet, Lugong, XCMG, Sunward, Chinese were there in force. The Koreans, Devolon or Doosan, and Hyundai, they were there in force as well. So what's that all about? Is it just a European thing that we don't do exhibitions anymore? And if that's the case, is that not opening the door to the Chinese and the Koreans, who are willing to support, obviously willing to support the exhibitions, but I guess that's seen as supporting the industry as well? If Plantworx, in my belief, Plantworx was the big opportunity for the UK construction industry, construction equipment industry, to get together this year, the one big time that we had to do that. And if those manufacturers that stayed away aren't willing to support that, and the likes of XCMG and Sunwald and Lugong make bigger inroads, have they got anybody to blame but themselves? Just chewing the fat here, people. The main thing I go for is innovation, new things and new ideas, and information I can take away and use in anything I'm making. Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I mean, I don't think I'm wholly different. I do tend to go to shows for shiny new things. Dan Cullen says, Magni was great, the Italian telescopic handler manufacturer. Yet the Italians are very welcoming. They just are. Oddly enough, going back to the couple of interactions that my son had, where he was thrown off and barred from the stand, on both occasions, they were Brits. Yeah. And show special offers, but they rarely exist nowadays. Yeah, do you remember that? Do you remember when there were show special offers and people would... And I'm sure, I mean, if Lou is still in the chat, I'm sure she will be able to give us some examples. But that used to be a really big thing, specifically back in SED days, where you'd get to the end of the first day and you'd have PR people and marketing people knocking on your door saying, we have already sold everything that's on our stand, or we've just taken an order for 10 of these X-rays that we're showing for the first time. I don't seem to see that so much anymore. And maybe that's not how business is done anymore. Or maybe we're just a bit too savvy and hardened to that type of thing. If somebody had come to me and said, we've just sold 10 of these X-rays we have on the stand, would I have covered it? Probably not, because I'm far more interested and attracted to the shiny new things. There were plenty of sales. I'm not entirely surprised by that whatsoever. Again, I mean, there used to be this idea that people actually saved up their sales for an exhibition so that you could actually get the buyer on the stand with the machine in the background, handshake, handing over the keys, photo opportunity, and all that kind of thing. Don't seem to do that so much anymore. Genquick, for example, sold their entire stand. How brilliant is that? How brilliant is that for Genquick? You ship all your stuff to the stand and then you leave it all there and let somebody else take it away. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Remnants of this bloody cough. And I know Gaz Evans had a pretty good sales effort as well from his models as well, so congratulations on that. X-Watch got £1 million in orders. £1 million. Dan and the team at X-Watch, well done, fellas. Top job. I went in the truck just in case there was someone with a riddle bucket at show price. But there wasn't. I think you're at the wrong show, actually. I'm fairly sure, going back to what Lou just said, Genquick basically selling everything on their stand. MB Crusher at Hillhead doing exactly the same. They actually had some of their riddle buckets, crushing and screening buckets, that they didn't want to ship back to Italy, so they were doing a very good offer on them. Nice to see the first Plantworx for XMG, every model. Yeah, and I've still not got to the bottom of exactly what that means in terms of XCMG's assault on the UK. It's been coming. We've been reporting on it for, basically since this show started. We've been saying they've been coming. There's been an XCMG UK office registered for a good few years now. There were false storms. I think we were supposed to be seeing them around about June last year. There was going to be a big launch that never actually happened. And then lo and behold, Plantworx rolls around XCMG in the UK for Williams. If anybody went onto the XCMG stand, would you buy that equipment? Could you, for one thing? If you could you get part? Who was the dealer? How did that all work? It's one of the questions we asked. We've got a video coming up with the CEO of Sunward Europe, who we met up with on the Sunward stand. Sunward, like some of the other Chinese manufacturers, have had tentative steps into the UK market. Let's call it that. Sunward are here. We've got a dealer network which is growing, and they've got a complete parts backup service out of Belgium. They're here. What's the score of XTMG? If anybody knows, I'd love to hear from them. Like I said, it was the best show ever. Praise indeed. They don't come much bigger than Leica. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. We're not talking about big manufacturers of heavy equipment. We're talking about software. I don't know why that's software. That's funny. But we're talking about software and that kind of thing. Is that the way shows are headed? Interested to see what you think. Lugong sold 17 machines on Tuesday alone. And bearing in mind, Tuesday is traditionally the quieter of the days. Superb. That's bad timing. I haven't made my mind up on what machine I was having when Hillhead was on. What can I say? And I'm sure this is it's like those people that used to phone you over early evening, trying to sell you double glazing. I would imagine that 99.9% of every phone call they ever made was a complete failure. But I guess in order to make that worthwhile, every once in a while they would stumble across somebody that just said, you know what, your call was perfect timing. How often do you get perfect timing? I spoke to Rick Steele on the Sunward stand. He said he was crazy busy with orders. I can't vouch for the orders, but certainly we spent an hour or two on the Sunward stand as we filmed a bunch of stuff with the folks at Sunward, and it was busy. It was busy, and it wasn't. And I mean this in the nicest possible way. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't, let's go and have a look at the funny Chinese machines. This was, blimey, these look good. Let's have a proper look. And I know at one point we were trying to put a camera in the cab of one of the machines that was on demonstration. And there was a queue, an actual queue of people that were wanting to take one of the Sunward machines for a test drive. And I have to say, there was a couple of machines there. The electric mini excavator looked very good. There was a zero tail swing machine as well that I thought looked fantastic. And I mentioned last week, again, not on the Sunward paywall, I'm just speaking as I find. I was stood filming one of the XMG machines, one of the smaller machines that they had on the demo plot, and I was sworn blind it was electric. Because all I could hear was the hiss of hydraulic of the tilt rotator until it actually got a bit closer, and then I could hear the hum of the engine. We're not talking funky Chinese, we are talking proper modern pieces of kit. As I say, I got into one of the machines, cab, up to spec, absolutely fine and dandy. Sorry, it's the worst bit of a cough when you get to the tail end of it and you just can't get rid of it. So yes, there we are. Lots and lots to talk about today. We are going to be back tomorrow. In fact, as it stands at the moment, we will be back here for the next 4 days in succession. Nothing coming up this week, nothing that requires me to not be here, which is going to make a nice change. It'd be nice to get a good run of shows together. So plenty more to show you tomorrow. Until then, everybody go and have a fantastic day. If you've got the sunshine, go and enjoy it. Not much more I can add to that. I'm sure we'll be talking about all things Plantworx again tomorrow, because it is a subject that is hot on the lips and the tongue of just about everyone. And that's a good thing. I think those that attended are, to my mind, they should be talking positively about it. To those that didn't attend, you're lost, people. It were good. It were dead good. You should have been there. Only another 2 years to wait, and a new location as well. So start building towards that as well. Everybody, have a fantastic day. Thank you for all your input. Enjoy your eggs, if I've inspired you to enjoy eggs today. And if not, have something else. And I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.